I think the thing too is like maybe that podcast title is doing what they intended. Like, maybe that's what they want. They want to spark conversation, and part of that is going to be outrage, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
maybe
it's probably Black History for all people, but for white people, probably is gonna get some more pennies in the water or something.
But will they actually listen to it? I don't know. Probably not,
I
because they'll just be
think,
too mad.
and this is my thing in life or with subjects that you're uncomfortable with, things that you don't know about. Like, just be curious. Like, you still don't have to agree. Like, there is nothing in that you still had to agree with anything that was said. None of the facts that were like, you didn't have to agree with a single bit of it. That's why I said, if you're curious and okay with being uncomfortable, that's it. Just listen.
That's the thing though, is a lot of people who are super, super strong. Okay, this is just my opinion. I think a lot of people that are very strong in their beliefs don't want to get uncomfortable, right? They're not, they don't want to be in that place to, like being with someone who's like the polar opposite of them makes them uncomfortable.
Someone needs you to clarify that. But go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'ma be who I gotta be. I ain't living in your fantasy. I'll be real if it's the death of me. I'ma be who I gotta be. And I don't care who you pretend to be. Cause I'll be real if it's the death of me. Yeah. Liars are liars, they burning in fire.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'll be honest with y'all. I kind of want to have like a dinner table conversation today where we're like actually just chopping it up. Also, I feel like I got some stuff I need to get off my chest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we can talk to this. It may be like, you know what one of them is. There's two things.
Yeah.
You know what one of them is. Yeah. But I think it's like it's a couple things. One of them I've been brewing on for a while because I've been trying to like digest it myself. Which one you want first, Kenny? You want the one you don't know about or the one you do know about?
Do the one we don't know about.
All right. So the one you don't know about is so I'm not gonna say no names or anything like that, but it was for I gave somebody a heads up about who our guest was gonna be, which I'm interested on y'all take on that. Just like as a podcast host or whatever. But I gave somebody a heads up, like, hey, this is who the guest is, and they're like, what do you know about them? And I'm like, I know this, this, and this. And I'm really interested to have this guest on. Like, it's gonna be different, it's gonna be new, whatever. I don't know where it's gonna go. Somebody got a zoo over there?
Yeah, oh my god, hold on, I'll mute myself.
I'm sorry. It sounded like the muscles running through. All right. But in all seriousness, though. Oh, it's so weird hearing this echo the whole time. I was having a conversation with somebody, and I told them, one of the things I said is I'm pretty sure that she's gay. Pretty sure that she's gay. And long story short, that person's response was, well, that'll be interesting. We do all need prayer. That's pretty much it. Out of everything that I said, long resume, y'all heard the introduction that I gave and stuff like that. Everything I said, like that was the response of, well, we all do need prayer.
I think I don't know. I don't know. I'm having a hard time with the words. I think it's like,
am I wrong for thinking this is out of line? Even whether I agree with them or not, am I wrong for thinking like, I don't know
that
why.
Person's out of line?
Yeah, that person's out of line. Like, why did that response? Maybe it should have came to your head, but why did that come out of your mouth?
People are more comfortable expressing these types of thoughts now because they feel protected because people in leadership express the same thoughts. Like, okay. I mean, it's true. Like, it's kind of like what I talked about before, like even on the podcast, like 10 plus years ago, homosexuality wasn't necessarily as publicized or as popular, not as common of a thing that you would see every day, right? People are becoming more accepting, and there's strides in public acceptance of it, but I think in the last like 4 years, maybe 6 years, there's also been strides in homophobia and hate, right? Like, if there's definitely a thing where it's like, if you see a person in power spewing hate, you're going to feel comfortable spewing hate as well. Like you feel empowered. And same thing goes with racism. Same thing goes, like, it's a similar vein to racism as well. And it's just like, why does why is that the only thing that you pick up on, right? Someone could be the most accomplished person on the planet, and then you find out they're gay and it diminishes everything.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just such a small mind thing. Like,
and that's what I was caught up on. That's what I was caught
Yeah.
up on is like, you know, I said a lot.
That's the only thing you pick up on.
And that's the only thing that I got a response from. I think I even waited too. It's like,
yeah,
like, look,
it's the same thing. Like if you, yeah, if you hide, like it's someone who's racist, right? Like I could say like, oh man, my buddy Leo is all this stuff. Like he's an entrepreneur, he's charitable, all nonprofit, he's black. And all people are going to say is, oh, he's one of the good ones, right?
Yeah.
It's a similar thing. Like it's people latch on to something like that. And it's a shame.
So this is interesting. I've had like, this happens all the time. This isn't new. And I like have to sit on it because it's so normal, and it's like it's nonchalant in a lot of conversations, I guess is the thing. For example, yesterday I was at a bar or whatever, and I heard some people having a conversation about their kids. And they were talking, honestly, the adults were talking about their kids, and it sounds like their kids are maybe 13, 14 years old. So they're starting to get in transition of things that are adult-like or whatever. And they were talking, this is a clear like distinction. The only kid that had been described by characteristics of themselves was like the black kid. So everybody else was like, oh, like, you know, this sounds like they're in sports, or it sounds like they're doing this, or it sounds like they're doing that. But this one was like, yeah, I think he's into a little chocolate girl. And immediately after is like, that's okay, you know, and it's okay. But every other characteristic before that was like, he's in sports, or yeah, he's probably sexting, or you think he's had sex yet? Like they just had the conversation, and I have no clue what race anybody else was. But this one time it was like a, you know, he's into a little. I was enjoying the conversation, not really enjoying it, but like it was like, wow, that's the first thing about race that we've mentioned. Like I'm kind of like, why was that? But yeah, so this person, by the way, listens to the podcast. So if you're listening to the podcast right now and you got to this moment, I want to let you know that I'm definitely willing to have the conversation with you. I'm trying to have the conversation with myself first in order to figure out how to have the conversation with you next. And I have to like sit on these things. I do. I have to sit on them sometimes before I say something. Or to point number 2, I just put somebody on blast. Like that's what happens. And I don't think this person intended to mean that way. I think it's just what's in their heart. From a Christian's perspective, I think they were like just heavy in that, and that's where they went. I don't think it was like I hate this person. It's more so of that's immediately I go to people need prayer, and that's what they picked up on that person needs prayer on this.
And it's like they probably don't mean anything necessarily by this. I mean, it's just something that goes against what they believe, right? And people inherently believe that, you know, homosexuality is a sin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so it's like it's a tough thing, because it's like you can't like attack the person, like I don't know, not attack the person necessarily, but it's like to us, at least to me, like yeah, like I think that comment's a little out of line, but I understand potentially why they think that way, right? Like if they're from a strong religious background, they probably think that homosexuality is a sin, like, and they might not have an issue with the person, but at the end of the day, like I don't know if they're going to think less of them, but they're never going to be accepting of their lifestyle, like their sexuality.
Yeah.
And sometimes some people might not be able to get past that. Like some people might not be able to have relationships with people because of that.
Yeah.
I have a close friend who I said on the podcast as well. He's gay, and we have a mutual friend whose spouse like does not like him for the same reason, because religious background, he's homosexual. They don't support it. They don't accept that. And it's like, I don't know.
Maybe I think we talked about having a homeless person on. I don't know if I had that conversation, but somebody was like, because I told them about the nonprofit and what it did. They was like, hey, maybe you should get a homeless person on the podcast. I still feel weird about that idea. I agree with it, but it's just like, it's tough to ask a person who's homeless, hey, can you hop on my podcast, you know, so I can talk about why you're homeless? You know, it's that one's tough for me, publicizing that. But maybe we should find, and I don't know how we would do this, but like we should find like some racist people, you know, and we should find some people that legitimately hate gays, and we should find a lot of those people and ask them the questions. I'm not sure how the conversations would go.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But I mean, I feel like we should ask these people the questions, you know?
It depends on the person though, right? And it depends on how we approach that conversation. Like I've had conversations with, you know, friends who I don't necessarily like, we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. Like maybe our political beliefs are separate, right? And we have different views. And like we've had very good conversations about things together. like that we have different viewpoints on, and because we're not like, I think both of us, we're not trying to change each other's view. We're not trying to attack the other person for believing something, like whatever they believe in, even if it's different than ours. We're not trying to win an argument. We're trying to just like, I'm just asking questions, trying to explain his point of view and like how he led to it. He's asking questions the same for me, and then he'll ask like, we'll ask each other like questions of alternatives, or like, kind of dive into more of like why you believe that. And it's like the whole point of it isn't, you're not trying to win an argument. It's you're trying to understand where the other person's coming from.
Yeah.
But a lot of people can't get past that. A lot of, like, in my opinion, I think a lot of the problem with why people hate talking about politics is because they tie it, in religion and all this stuff, is they tie it into their personal identity because it's so easy to. And then if someone disagrees with that, it's like
they have to convince them.
Correct. And it's also like, if like some people can take it as, if you disagree with me, you're like, it's like a slight against me. Like they take it personally.
Yeah.
And that's why they get defensive. And it's like, if I don't agree with the same as others, people, like, I'm not, it's not a slight against you at all. Like, I don't think any less of you. Like, if I ask you a question about something and I don't think the same, like, I'm trying to understand. But too many people get defensive, and too many people also get aggressive. And too many times people are just trying to argue. And I said this before, like, they just want to hear their words out of your mouth. Like, they just want to win the argument.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to understand, like, when things are going in a circle, and just step away, or just realize that this is not a productive conversation. Like, we can agree to disagree, and let's just move on.
Yeah. Which I think we're all good at that. Sometimes.
I think yeah. I mean,
Kenny, you sometimes get out of line when I win. I'm playing. Look,
yeah, I know.
You're about to get turned on when we're right here.
But I think that's a lot of it, though, is with people get heated about some stuff like that. And I mean, like, for full transparency, like, the issue that I was talking with my friend was just like, was abortion. And like, that's a hot topic. People have widely different views, and we had a great conversation about it. We're on different sides of that argument. Did we walk away feeling pissed or angry at each other? No. Like, we had an understanding. We also talked about like immigration, like basically all the hot ticket news items we talked about, right? And both of us think we both of us think completely different. Okay. And it was a good conversation. Like,
would he be willing to hop on or no?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think if how do I put this lightly?
If it could be anonymous?
If it could be anonymous, maybe. If it could be anonymous, maybe he would, like, if he's on the phone or something. Uh-huh. But I think the thought of two non-white people questioning him, he might not like it very much.
Gotcha. I can get some makeup or something like that. I'm sure I can find some white makeup somewhere around here.
Taking it a little too far. Just go buy some powdered sugar.
I was gonna. Yeah. Do you all know? Kenny, do you know any like racist people?
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know if I know any.
The thing is like, I don't know people who are like, I know people who are like racist that they don't know it, right? Like,
yes.
Like, they're not malicious, but they're just maybe from an older generation or another time, and so some of their views are.
I'm talking about like Uncle Ruckus, outwardly. Hey, I don't like black people, and this is why. Hey, I don't like Asians, and I have a valid reason for it, and this is why.
No, it's tough because like those aren't the people that like I want to necessarily be around. So I might know like, like a 6 degree of separation. Like, I know someone who knows someone, right? Yeah. I mean, even growing up, I've had friends' parents who were racist, right?
I'm sure I know somebody.
Oh yeah, you definitely know somebody. Maybe not somebody that's super duper open about it, but we all know somebody.
I'm sure we all.
It probably surprised us too who it is.
I'm sure I know somebody.
Yeah, I agree though. Like, especially I lived in the South for a long time, and like those type of racists that like you said don't even realize they're racist, or like the view that they have is technically racist. It's a very interesting type of friendship or like interaction, because there's no malicious intent. It's like, oh, what's up, man? Like they just fall in line with all the stereotypes and everything like that, because it's genuinely how they were brought up.
Yeah.
So like,
Like
I'd just be shocked. Like, wow, this is like really like the way that they live and think. But
yeah, like they don't know different, right? Like that's the textbook definition.
And that's the point. Like if you can feel it when it's malicious, or you can feel it when someone's trying to offend you or has harmful intentions or anything like that. But like versus somebody who's like genuinely just like clueless, like
yeah, like it's purely ignorance, and that word gets thrown around a lot. But like textbook definition is like that's ignorance. It's a lack of knowledge or a lack of experience of it.
It's not that you're stupid. It's just you just don't know. Like you haven't been taught.
You can fix ignorance. You can't fix stupidity. I think like I purely think if someone's stupid, like you can't fix it, man. You're born stupid.
Wow. I do not want to segue into the next conversation off of that. Kenny, is there some buffer that we could talk about before we get it?
I mean, this next conversation is definitely like a tie-in. You kind of have to segue into it now. There's no buffer. We just got to hit it hard.
Oh, man.
It's on a similar vein, if I think I know what you're talking about.
Unfortunately, yeah, it is. It is. Golightly, do you know what I might be talking about here?
No.
No? All right. Yeah, you probably missed it. All right. So I think some people would call it, and Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong, I maybe got a little bit petty over the weekend. But I think it made sense. Okay. So Golightly, I posted on my Instagram story a podcast that I wanted people to check out. It's a podcast that I also listen to. Okay. It is a very uncomfortable podcast. It is named Black History for White People. This is a podcast, again, that I listen to. And it was about Juneteenth. So I was like, hey, if anybody is curious, wanting to learn, and if you're okay with being uncomfortable, this is a good podcast talking about the day, Juneteenth, like what the meaning of it is, just like anything else educational, it's telling about it. People be sliding in my DMs all the time with some reckless stuff. So one person slid in, was like, don't you think that's a little racy? Like, what about the other people? Why I got to be for white people? And this person was obviously white, So yeah, I took a screenshot of the chat and then I put that on my Instagram story and I made a poll. Like, people, what do y'all think? I got a pretty diverse following. So I was asking the folks like, hey, is this racist? Like, is this title of this podcast racist? Is it not inclusive? Like, is this bad? Should I not be listening to this podcast anymore? Should I not be learning from blah, blah?
What are the results of the poll?
Oh my goodness. There was one person who said that it was a little racist.
Were they white? Just curious. They
happened to be the person that also slid my DMs with a comment.
Okay, of course.
They happened to be the person that the screenshot was about.
Oh man. I can let G. I'll let G go. What do you got to say, G? Sound off?
I mean, I've got mixed emotions about it, but I won't sit here and speculate. I find that strange, especially on the day of, or like, for the sake of like you genuinely just wanting to spread knowledge or information for anyone that's curious. Kind of comes off as like a person that's like trying to make it about themselves, or trying to make it something other than what it is, like trying to twist that narrative a little bit to what you're actually talking about, as if you're like pushing out that information to offend someone,
right?
Okay, which obviously isn't the intention. So that's all that really comes to mind to me, is just like, okay.
Could have been offensive.
Yeah, I feel like it completely could have possibly went over their head, and unfortunately, that may be somebody who, if they aren't educated in that regard, probably never will be. If they're not willing to, actually digest what's being put out.
Yeah.
And then.
So I'm normally not like I don't think a spicy person like that. Somebody messages me something, maybe inappropriate. We'll have a conversation. I feel some type of way. This was not the first offense, so I felt like it needed to be crowdsourced per se. But you made a point on it. Could have been something that maybe other people felt like I was trying to be offensive. Maybe I was trying to put something out there on like, hey, you white people, you need to do this and this and this. And that wasn't the case. So maybe they were offended by that. But again, this is kind of like one of those, this is like, we're talking about Juneteenth. No matter what, like either side is going to be offended, by the meaning of it or the podcast, whatever it is. But yes, if anyone took that, if anybody's listening to this, they took that as me trying to point at white people and be like, hey, you need to listen to this podcast because this and this and this. It is a podcast that I listen to educate myself as well on Black history, because they talk about a lot of lesser known facts, days in history, people, all that good stuff that you would never know about because you don't learn that in school. I didn't learn it in school. Good point.
I think that was, and I took it the same way when I saw it. I was like, oh, you're sharing an educational piece that you listen to, right? It's just you sharing a recommendation. But I think it's similar to the first topic that we said. Like people will latch on to a topic that, right? Like they'll latch onto something. Like the first person in question latched onto the fact that someone was gay. This one latched onto the title of that podcast.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of had this conversation in Instagram as well. Like people, I think and then like we said in this podcast, I feel like it's maybe a slight against their identity, or like they feel offended by it or something, or they disagree.
Yeah.
And it's that stirs up a strong emotion.
Which is interesting because I think like most people would agree that like if you're offended by something, it probably means that it's like true about you, right? Like if you call me short, I'm not getting mad. You know, I'm not about to fight you over you calling me short. I'm like, yeah, okay. Next, like what else we got?
But I feel like in terms of the second one with like about Juneteenth and that stuff, it's some people might think they are educated about it. Kind of like what Lo said, it's like how they'll never be educated. Some people might think they already know enough, or some people might think,
why can't you just scoot past the post?
The title.
First of all, it's a post.
Why do you have to say something?
Why do you have to say something? If you're like, oh, this dude is dumb or he's pointing people out, you could have started with, hey, like, why are you pointing white people out? Like, why, you could have asked a question, like,
But that all kind of goes back to what we were talking about, is like how people are wired. So in this particular example, this person is wired or raised a certain way to when they see like that type of information to feel a certain way. So I think that's what it all stems from. So like, honestly, it's kind of weird, but
yeah. My thing is like, I have a lot probably I want to say about this, but I'm trying to keep it concise and clear.
Yeah.
If someone posts something on their page, number one, you can always ignore it. You can unfollow. You can, do all those things like, oh, this doesn't sit well with me. Let me get away from it, type of thing. Or you can educate people. Hey, let's have a conversation about it because this is this. But I can guarantee you that person did not listen to the podcast. I know because it was shortly after I posted it that I got the DM, but they didn't even listen to the podcast. So wouldn't you be able to tell if it was racist after you listen to it?
Yeah, I think it's. I just don't understand why people have to have the need to like want to challenge everything or like have that confrontation, right?
Yeah.
There's like healthy confrontation and unhealthy, and it's just like, what are you aiming to get out of this, right?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Like what is
going into it? Yeah. Like even if they did watch it, because they're going to have that view or that feel like you say, hey man, before you sit here and say what this is or isn't, how about you watch it? You know what? I'm gonna go watch it. They go watch it. In the back of their mind the whole time while they're sitting there, like, I'm right. I'm still right. So once this is over, I'm gonna go back to, you know what I mean? So they never wanted to
understand.
They never wanted to understand it, or they never wanted to embrace like the facts or the history. It's kind of like they just want to force their opinions or their views on you, kind of similar like what we talked about a little bit earlier.
But also, it's like it's not your podcast, so like you have no control over the title of that podcast. You're sharing it purely for education material, right?
Yeah.
And so it's
that too. Yeah.
It's like you should have responded like, "What do you want me to do about it?" You wanted me to start a petition to change this podcast name?
He probably probably doesn't want me to listen to it. Probably doesn't want me to share it. Like all kinds of things. But yeah, what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah,
my podcast.
It's not like that's the thing that blows my mind. Like you have no control of it. Like it literally has nothing. Like, what is complaining to you do anything for? Right.
Yeah. And you know what? That's a good point though. My bad, Kenny.
No, I'm just stuck on the point of like, what's the point? Why even reach out in the first place and say something like that? Like, what is he trying to get out of it? Right. Like,
exactly. Like for me, I have that all the time on social media where I'll see a piece of content or a take. I'm like, man, this stinks. Like it's the worst take I've ever seen. And I'll stop myself before commenting. I'm like, what could I possibly gain for this? Or what do I hope to get from this? And I'm like, you know what? There's nothing I could gain from this. We're going to go back and forth. And then by the end of it, we're both going to be heated or I'm going to be heated. So I'll just, like you said, it's social media. We're free. We got the right to consume whatever. So we can just literally just keep scrolling. It's super easy.
That's the thing. It's like I see it a lot more with like sports takes. I'll see some I'll see a post and I'll go to the comments and see some a lot
of comments.
Dumb.
Just think about the time consumed about them going back and forth.
Exactly. And I just laugh because like But I think the thing too is like maybe that podcast title is doing what they intended. Like, maybe that's what they want. They want to spark conversation, and part of that is going to be outrage, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
maybe
it's probably Black History for all people, but for white people, probably is gonna get some more pennies in a lot or something.
Mm-hmm. But will they actually listen to it? I don't know. Probably not.
I think
they'll just be too mad.
And this is my thing in life or with subjects that you're uncomfortable with, things that you don't know about. Like, just be curious. Like, you still don't have to agree. Like, there is nothing in that you still had to agree with anything that was said. None of the facts that were like, you didn't have to agree with a single bit of it. That's why I said, if you're curious and okay with being uncomfortable, that's it. Just listen.
That's the thing though, is a lot of people who are super, super strong. Okay, this is just my opinion. I think a lot of people that are very strong in their beliefs don't want to get uncomfortable, right? They don't want to be in that place to, like being with someone who's like the polar opposite of them makes them uncomfortable.
Someone needs you to clarify that. But go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I'm trying to think like the best way to word it. Like, so I think people who are like super, I don't know, secure in their beliefs, are super strong.
The reason I ask is because like I believe somebody could be passionate in their belief and what they think and still like curious or willing to learn more or whatever about another side or about it.
Exactly. I mean, because I feel that way. Like, I'm pretty comfortable. I don't know, like passionate in what I believe in, but I'm also not stubborn enough to think that like what I know is best, or like that there has to be one correct way for everything. But some people are so strong and so passionate in their beliefs that it's the only thing that works, like that their belief is right and that everything else is wrong.
Yeah.
And it's that train of thought for like a lot of people that aren't willing to be uncomfortable, because anything that challenges that is wrong, and then they're like, it's just because it goes against everything they believe.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't know if you're saying it the exact way you want to right now.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying. Like, so like I'm gonna disagree just because I think I don't think you have the right words just yet. But like, if you believe in something and something is the opposite, then yes, I'm going to disagree with the opposite because what I have is correct. For example, like if I am a Christian, then I'm supposed to believe that certain things are wrong. And there is no halfway that, I'm 100%. That does not mean though that I could also listen to understand. I think that's like the second half, is just listen to understand, listen to be curious. Or
that's the thing, you have to be willing.
I think what you're trying to say is like, for example, like with Christianity, I know that this is true and there will never be anything that can or should, or I want to prove me wrong in what I could possibly believe, like back in the day with like white people, they legitimately believe that Black people were inferior. Like they believe that God sent them down here to be slaves. Like it's the truth. There can be no other truth. So I think that's what you mean. Like when you're saying like people are stubborn, it's not that I'm not willing to hear you out, but it's like, I already know what the truth is,
No, that's the thing is, it's people are stubborn. They don't want to have a conversation to understand another side. Because it's a waste of their time. Ooh. That's what they think. Ooh. Right? Like they're not going into conversations or going into things where they disagree with someone. Like, why would they do it? Why, what motivation do they have? Because if you're willing to have a conversation to understand the other side, you're already different from that person that we're describing, because you're willing to have that conversation. You're willing to put the time in to learn. And yes, if you're strong in your beliefs, like you're not going into it being like, oh, my beliefs are going to change. You're going into it purely from from a point of understanding. Like it's a mindset of learning. It's not a mindset of like persuade me to change my mind.
Correct. Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, it's all about your mentality. Yeah. Like if you're going into it with the wrong way, and I think most people who I was trying to describe don't have that mentality to engage in those conversations.
Wow. Okay. So I was hoping that this would be a little bit like motivational or something like that, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I have a firm belief that like after a certain age, like somewhere around 25 and up, like people don't change. You only magnify who you are. That's a belief of mine. I can be convinced wrong. I've seen some drastic changes, like life events happen, but like I think for the most part, who you are at your core at around 25 is set. You may have not developed fully into the final version of you, but it's really hard then to change the habits of who you, like you're fighting, like truly fighting against yourself.
Absolutely. Well, because by that time you're in your routine, like things are pretty consistent. And I agree. I mean, I think there's always going to be some outliers. There's always going to be some anomaly of people changing, especially if but like most of the time it takes a catalyst, right? It takes something to happen to them to force them to change.
Yeah. So I was wanting, out of all of these, I wanted to, at the end of the day, be like motivational, or, hey, here's the bright side of it, or, hey, this sucks, the situations that we just talked about, but like, hey, here's what you should do. And I want to say, be curious. And I want to say, go out and learn something about somebody different. But like you said, like, and what we've been talking about is it's uncomfortable. And what you said, which I didn't believe this, but it's probably a waste of their time. And that's probably what they believe is, this is a waste of my time. This isn't helpful for me or for anybody else that you're talking about this stuff. I'm sure somebody's saying that about us right now. But
but I mean, I think you can end on a motivational note just by saying that, like, even if you give something else a chance that you might not normally, right?
Yeah.
Just try something. Try talking to someone, try asking questions, try listening to something.
Yeah.
And give it a fair shot. If you don't like it, you tried.
From my perspective, that's the definition of pursuing excellence. So if you're listening to this right now and you look up to me in any form of my life with anything that I've done, you have to, number one, know that I probably talked to you and I probably asked a lot of questions because I am curious. And I think that is one of the forms of pursuing excellence. You can't be excellent if you don't know more, and you can't know more without asking the questions and learning about other people, places, and things. So yeah, if you look up to me at all, if you have an ounce of respect for me, then I guess that's my motivational little tidbit suggestion for you. I feel like I have a lot more to say, y'all, but I feel like I can get very confusing if I just keep going and keep going. I feel like it'll end me up somewhere else.
I feel like that was a good note to end on. I feel like these topics can go on, but I think just challenge everyone to do something different, try something new for a change.
Yeah,
see things from a different point of view.
Yeah, and then I guess I'll finish on this on my most positive note. This is something I've been thinking about for a couple weeks now, and I'm loving this year, y'all. I think this might be close to it. I know I say that every year, but I make some big moves. Anyway, that thing that you have been thinking about, I'm talking to you, Golightly. This is for you, okay? That thing that you've been thinking about, you've been marinating on it, sleeping, you wake up, like you've been like, man, I can't wait until, like, now is the time to like literally just like inch towards it or jump at it. One of the two. Inch towards it or jump at it. Like, but now is actually the time. Don't wait. Like, stop thinking about it. Stop marinating on it. Like, actually take those steps daily, weekly, 3 times a week or something like that, whatever you got to do. But like, it's only going to push you back further, or maybe you'll be taken out and you won't have the opportunity anymore. Now's the time.
Dropping bars, man.
I got Leo reloaded. I got a lot of passion in me right now. I'm trying to make sure it's focused. Y'all got anything before we sign this thing off? Such a very somber podcast. Hey, I love y'all. If y'all listen to me talk about y'all today, then I still appreciate you. I still cherish everybody, whether you hate me or not, I still cherish everybody. Pursue excellence and cherish everybody. Peace. Hey, what up? It's Leo. I just want to quickly say thank you for tuning into the P.E.A.C.E podcast. It means a lot that you decided to take your time, get through this video. I hope that you learned something. Thanks for joining us at what we call the dinner table. Hopefully you got some quick nuggets out of it. What I want you to do, if you can do me one last favor, hit the subscribe button, hit like, and share this with a friend. Peace.